And here at Crosswater, we're trying to actually remind ourselves and anybody who will listen, anybody God gives us grace to be able to impact, and they impact us for more Jesus. So Jesus is indeed the King of Kings. We're not too far. This is going to be tough for some of you, so I'm just going to say it. We're not too far from Christmas. And for some people, they're like, oh, that's a pagan holiday and all these kind of things. And we can discuss that, debate that, whatever you want to do with that. But it's a time where the world acknowledges Jesus being born and that the king is come, right? And like, oh, sweet. Well, the king is coming for sure. And he's coming again. And so he's actually already coming. We're in this ancient text in the book of 1 Samuel about some kings that point to the coming king, Jesus. None of the kings in the book of 1 Samuel are perfect. And yet their people wanted them to be the king. And the king, well, he blew it multiple times. And we're going to read a bit about that today. But I want to tell you about a sure foundation. We sang about it already twice today. We're going to get right to it. If you have your Bibles, please join me in Isaiah, not 1 Samuel. We'll get there in a minute. But Isaiah 28, verse 16. My wife, Kathy, and I are reading through the Bible together, and some days it goes really well, and other days we're catching up. And it's not just like a check it off the list, and yet I find myself sometimes trying to get to it so I can move on with my day. And may God forgive me for that. I get that we're humans, and I get that we're busy, but what you're about to hear is about as much of a check in my spirit as I've had in a long, long time. This is Isaiah 28:16. Therefore, thus says the Lord God. Behold, that means check it out, look at this. I am the one who is laid as a foundation in Zion, a stone, a tested stone, a precious cornerstone of a sure foundation. Whoever believes will not be in haste. This is powerful, and we're going to get to the foundation in just a second. But haste. What does the word haste mean? If you're not doing something in haste, if you're not in haste, you're not what? Not in a hurry. There's so many times on Sunday morning that I feel like the beat down of the clock. I should feel the beat down of the sun with no hair, but the reality is it's outside. But I feel the beat down of the clock, and I feel like I kind of have to be in a hurry, and I feel like it's because I can be really random, and it's true. But this reminded me of a song, and I could not get the song out of my head. And so rather than sing it to you, I'm going to read it to you. It's about not being in a hurry. It's literally called Not in a Hurry by a guy named Will Regan and United Pursuit. Lord, I don't want to rush on ahead in my own strength when you're right here. I'm not in a hurry when it comes to your spirit, when it comes to your presence. When it comes to your voice, I'm just learning to listen, just to rest in your nearness and starting to notice you're speaking. Lord, I want to love like you. I want to feel what you feel. I want to see what you see. Open my eyes. I want to see you. Open my ears. I want to hear you speak. Tell me your thoughts, what's on your mind. I'll be your friend. I want to see through your eyes. I want to see through your eyes. I'm not in a hurry when it comes to your spirit, when it comes to your presence, when it comes to your voice. I'm learning to listen, just to rest in your nearness. I'm starting to notice you are speaking. Jesus, I ask that we would recognize that not only are you a sure foundation, but we don't have to rush through our time with you. May we hear from you today. May we believe in you. May we know you more. May we make you known as a result. I pray this in your perfect name. Amen. If you will, turn with me to the book of Acts. I'm sure you've spent time in the New Testament if you've read through the Bible, and the New Testament is where a lot of Christians love to marinate because it's all Jesus all the way through. And yet I'm here to tell you the reason why we're going through Old Testament Bible passages and Bible books is because he's there too. The entire thing is about him. He even said as much. So check this out. In Acts 4, 11 through 12, they introduce this cornerstone, this foundation. And it's as a result of being in trouble with the leaders that are religious and should know who the cornerstone is. This Jesus is the stone that was rejected by you, the builders, which has become the cornerstone. That's the chief stone, the capstone, the sure foundation. There is salvation in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. We've sang about it today. I'm pointing this out to you because you and I live in this real world that's more like a roller coaster. I don't know how many of you can experience the highs and lows of life and not feel like, God, where are you? Some of you sit there as an example of God's grace and mercy because you have done the absolute best job of shipwrecking your life. And God has said, it's not going to stay that way. Look, listen to me. If you're on a roller coaster, and I don't necessarily love those. I get that little in my tummy, right? But if you're on a roller coaster, and one time, I won't say which son, but it was one of my sons. We were on this roller coaster ride, and he was strapped in, and he comes over the top of where we are, and all we see is this, ah! Screaming. His mouth was almost like Charlie Brown. You're like, ah! Right? It's just like, we knew he was okay. He was strapped in. But more than that, that thing wasn't built on jelly. That thing wasn't built on water. That thing was built on a firm foundation. And a firm foundation is going to be there after you're done with your highs and lows and you're screaming and your mom and dad wishing they had a video of it. And that happens in our lives as well. So before we get into looking at David, who's not the king yet, he was anointed king and then had a 20-year wait period, and he was on the run, and that's where we catch him now, is he's on the run from the king that's before him. And he doesn't try to kill the king, he doesn't try to dishonor the king, but he does run from the king. And his life, as you're going to see in these 3 chapters that we look at, has a lot of highs and lows, but he's got a firm foundation. So when you're feeling the roller coaster of your life, trust that if you are in Jesus Christ, the roller coaster is going to do what it does, but the firm foundation is secure, and you are not only going to be all right, he is the lifter of your head. He makes all things work for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose, even the tough stuff. So here we go. We're going to go back to 1 Samuel with all of that. Boy, that was an introduction, and we've got some time left. So here we go. 1 Samuel 21. If you have it, wonderful. We're going to get to it. I'm going to read that and a few other things, and hopefully you don't get bored with the Bible. Some of you are already falling asleep. It's kind of warm. I'm just going to remind you. Can I borrow this for a second, bro? Please and thank you. Is there any left? Okay, so Debbie's got some. These are fans. These help you stay awake. You're moving your hand. I did watch this the other day. It was so cool. Talk about wishing you had a video. Oh my goodness. The only cooler thing that I've seen is we used to pass the offering, and this guy made change in the offering one time. I mean, but you know he's giving, right? He's just trying to say, he's like, I was like, wish I would have videoed that too, but it's in here. All right. So with that, we're going to 1 Samuel 21. Then David came to Nob to Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech came to meet David, trembling. And he said to him, why are you alone and no one with you? It's kind of funny because it's the same thing, right? Alone and no one with you is the same thing, but he's freaked out. Does anybody want a quick guess, if you've been reading along 1 Samuel with us, why it's possible that this priest, man of God, leader of leaders, is afraid? What do you think he's afraid of? Which king? He's afraid of Saul. And he sees David. He doesn't know all the story about David, but he knows that David is by himself. What are you doing here by yourself? And David said to Ahimelech the priest, "The king has charged me with the matter and said to me, 'Let no one know anything of the matter about which I send you, and with which I have charged you. I have made an appointment with the young men for such and such a place. Now then, what do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread, or whatever's here.' And the priest answered David, 'I have no common bread on hand, but there is holy bread.'" This reminds me of the joke, how do you make holy water? You take tap water and you boil the hell out of it. But that is not how that is. The holy bread is not a joke. This is like symbolic of the presence of God, and it was in the presence of God, and it was good stuff. You guys will just remember the joke and nothing else that I just said. So he's like, look, there's just holy bread if the young men have kept themselves from women. And this is not some kind of like, look, women are bad and terrible, and don't you remember the story of Adam and Eve? That's not what that's about. It's about not being sexually active, because there was a bunch of stuff that happens, and still to this day, happens to a person's body with sexual activity. And that could make you ceremonially unclean. And so the priest is saying, if this is a holy mission, then they've got to be kept from the ladies if they're on a holy mission. And listen to David. David answered the priest, "Truly women have been kept from us, as always when I go on an expedition. The vessels, the bodies of the young men are holy even when it's an ordinary journey. How much more today will their vessels be holy?" So the priest gave him the holy bread, for there was no bread there, but the bread of the presence, which is removed from before the Lord, to be replaced by hot bread on the day it is taken away. So they don't want just stale bread before God, nothing but the best for God, right? So we're given this good, holy, warm, fresh bread. But we take that apart, all we have left is that, so we'll give it to you. Now a certain man of the servants of Saul, Saul is the king who was chasing him, looking for him. There was a certain man that was there that day, detained before the Lord. This is a very interesting word. Oftentimes, somebody would be detained before the Lord because they were making a vow before the Lord, or they were coming to know the Lord. Possibly that's what was happening. It's also possible that God had slowed him down for such a time as this, that he would actually be in there to hear all of this conversation and see what was going on. And he did. Now his name was Doeg, the Edomite, the chief of Saul's herdsmen. He would not be, by birth, a Jewish man. He would have to have been a proselyte who had come to Jesus, or come to God, I should say, and become a Jew because he was half Jewish or even less. Then David said to Ahimelech, "Then have you not here a spear or a sword at hand?" Now that's just a weird way, and I don't love how this comes out in English for us, but he's like, "Hey, don't you have any kind of sword here? Any kind of weapon?" And he says, "Because I haven't brought either my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste." Somebody remind me what haste is again? Hurry. He's saying, look, I was in such a hurry, I left my food. And as a warrior, I left all my weapons. I'm starting to have a problem with this story here. I do believe that David is a man after God's own heart. But I'm going to remind you again, nobody but Jesus is perfect. David, I believe, is maybe trying not to talk mess about the king, King Saul. And I believe that he's scared. I believe that he's on the run. And I believe that he is trying to cover his own backside. And he's making some stuff up. He might be saying, well, I'm following the King of Kings, so I'm on his mission. Okay, I think that's possible, but he's talking to a priest. Don't you think he could say to the priest, I'm on the run. You're my brother. You've gone before the Lord for me before. Would you go before the Lord for me? And also, we're really, really hungry. But maybe he was just trying not to dishonor the king. But I think in the process, he did something that many of us do. He made up a whopper. And some people disagree with me on that, and we can. But I mean, he's in haste, and he's making up a deeper story. When the priest says this to his question about the weapons, well, the sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you struck down in the valley of Elah, check it out. Behold, it's here, wrapped in a cloth, behind the ephod, behind the priestly garment. If you'll take that, take it, for there's none but that here. And David said, there's none like that, give it to me. Does anybody remember who Goliath is?
Yeah.
Yeah? Who's Goliath, bro? Nice. Basically the 100%. Nice job. It was a slingshot or a sling, and he knocked him down and killed him. He happened to be the champion of the Philistines. And David killed him without the sword, like you just said. Well done. And so he had his sword, and somehow the sword ends up with the priest. It's maybe a shout out to God and how awesome he is. Hey, God, here's like the spoil of war. Here's something more crazy than even all that we just read. Jesus talks about this. Let's go to it really quick. Matthew 12, 1 through 8. Jesus is in the midst of some serious stuff going on. People are saying all kinds of different things to him and about him. He's healing people. And he happens to heal on the Sabbath a few times, and they question him. And so the religious leaders come to him. But this is how they come to him. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. That is Saturday, the Lord's day. This is a day of rest. It's a day where you're not supposed to work. His disciples were hungry and began to pluck heads of grain and to eat. They would do this. They were walking to the synagogue, and they took wheat, pulled it off, rubbed it together in their hands to knock off the chaff, and they had a little granola snack. Now, it wasn't like they were American, where they're like, oh, I'm starving. It's been 10 minutes since I've had anything to eat. They were hungry. And they just quickly did that. But that was against the rules, not that God had made, but that man had made. Now, God had, yes, slow down, don't work on the Sabbath. But they went even further, and listen to this. When the Pharisees saw them do that, they said, look, your disciples are doing what's not lawful to do on the Sabbath. Jesus said to them, have you not read what David did when he was hungry, and those who were with him? How he entered the house of God, ate the bread of the presence, which is not lawful for him to eat, nor for those who are with him, but only for the priests. So right there at this moment, Jesus isn't justifying David's existence. He's not saying, oh, David did something that was supposed to be done. He said, have you not read this? He's calling them to consider their amazing knowledge and their amazing studies. And the knowledge that they had of the Word, sadly, did not draw them closer to God. Then he says, or have you not read in the law how on the Sabbath the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are guiltless? You guys, he's pointing out that there's things that are going on that are against the law all the time, and they don't even worry about it. He gives two examples. Hey, Pharisees, you religious leaders, you know that David went in against the law and did some things because he and his buddies were hungry. Jesus is not saying it's okay what David did. He's saying, but you've acknowledged that, and you also acknowledge that David is the big deal. And everybody's got to be able to look to David. David was a God after man's own heart, but he wasn't God. And he acknowledges that David did what he did, but he says it wasn't lawful for him. But the next one's even bigger, you guys. He says, you guys as Pharisees, as religious leaders, look at the priests, and they worked their tails off on a Sabbath day. It reminds me of my friend Blair Broughton. He said, Aaron, I know you only work one day a week. I hope Sunday goes real well for you. I'm like, well, but I mean, we joked about that back and forth. But for me, Sunday's a work day, at least half of it at least. And it's good, and I love it. But it's not what you would call a typical Sabbath where you slow down and change things and rest in the Lord. He's saying, you guys know that these priests don't rest on the Sabbath day, and you don't even think twice about it. And then he hits them with this bomb in verse 6. I tell you, something greater than the temple is here. He's referring to himself. And if you had known what this means, I desire mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. He's putting them to task. He's checking them right there in their hypocrisy. And he's saying, I'm the one that you should be coming to. These are my guys. They're not doing anything wrong. The heart of the law was to give yourself to the Lord, not to starve. And in other cases, not to keep people from being healed. You guys, Jesus does not defend David, but he points out that what David did was acceptable for whatever reason to most of the Israelites, even though it was against the law. God wanted him to be hungry. God wanted him to be able to be satisfied. God did not want him to lie. Did he lie? Yes. Did he get away with it? Kinda. We're about to read in just a little bit where there's tragic consequences to all of what happened right there. But I want to bring your attention one more time to those first two words that I put up on the screen. More Jesus. We need him to show us the right way. I got to get to it, and I'm going to bring you back to 1 Samuel 21, 10 through 15. This is super ironic. David rose and fled that day. They had that interaction, and where Doeg the Edomite saw it. He fled from that day from Saul, and he went to Achish, the king of Gath. If you don't know where Gath is, that's where Goliath was from. Whose sword does he have with him? That's got to be an awkward interaction. Coming into the king. Hi. But that's not how it went. David, on his roller coaster, has another low moment. The servants of Achish said to him, to the king, is not this David, the king of the land? Did they not sing to one another of him in dances? Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s. David took these words to heart and was much afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them, pretended to be insane in their hands, made marks on the doors of the gate, and let a spittle run down his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, behold, which again means, look at this. You see the man is mad, not just angry, but like crazy. Why then have you brought him to me? Do I lack madmen that you've brought this fellow to behave as a madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? Bless you. David is here, and he's acting crazy. Why? Because he's scared. What do you do when you're afraid? What do you do when you're feeling threatened? What do you do when you're hungry? What do you do when you're thirsty? What do you do when you're wanting something? This is such a great question for all of us, and I'm not going to elaborate any more on that. I'm just going to ask you to consider, what do you do? This guy, man after God's own heart, second time in in one chapter, where he's making up stuff. And God is good to him and gracious to him, but God isn't blessing his crazy act. So we'll move on to 22. David departed from there. Why did he leave from there, do you think? He was scared. He wasn't just scared. He'd been acting crazy. They left him alone, and he's like, okay, check Gath off the list. And then he goes to a cave. There he escaped to the cave of Adullam. And when his brothers and all his father's house heard it, they went down there to him. And everyone who was in distress, and everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was bitter in soul, what a great motley crew that must have been.
Why am I such a misfit?
Right? I mean, they have all this stuff going on. And yet, misery loves company, but they also, finally, his brothers are like, that's our bro. Remember they were against him for a while, if you were reading along? Now they're like, look, he's in trouble. He's at this cave. It's a place to hide, and he shows up. They show up, and about 400 other guys in debt, distressed, not doing good. And David went from there to Mizpah of Moab. This is really a powerful shout out to David's, really his origin story. His dad was Jesse. Jesse's dad, does anybody remember? Who was it? Where are we at? Obed. Boaz, right, is a little further up. Grandfather. So great-grandfather to David. His wife, Ruth. Ruth was a Moabitess. She was half Jewish, half, I think, Assyrian. I can't remember. It wasn't pretty. It was a gross situation, and God said they have to stay out. And yet, by grace, he lets this woman back in. And David shows one of the highs where he's trusting the Lord now, and he goes into the king of Moab after acting this way and that way, and actually now he's in a cave. He's slowing down his mind. He actually wrote multiple psalms, more on that in the Live It Out video if you watch that. But he spends some time in this cave. He's a psalmist, and he's slowing down. He's not in a hurry. So he goes from that time to Moab, and he says to the king of Moab, who is an enemy of Israel, please let my father and my mother stay with you till I know what God will do for me. He doesn't act crazy. He doesn't tell lies. He just humbles himself. And he left them with the king of Moab, and they stayed with him. All that time David was in the stronghold. Then the prophet Gad said to David, hey, don't remain in the stronghold. Depart and go into the land of Judah. This is where he was being chased. But God told him to go into the heart of all of this. So David departed and went into the forest at Herath. He's still hiding. I want to read for you quickly a prayer. It's so beautiful, and it was written in this very cave. It's Psalm 142. It's a prayer of David. I'm just going to let you hear the prayer, see what you can draw from it, be encouraged. If you're in a dark, cold place, as God would have it, that's where people grow. And if you want to look outside and see some of these trees, I don't know if you can check out some of them. All of those grew from a seed that started in a dark and cold place. God doesn't waste a thing, friends. With my voice, I cry out to the Lord. With my voice, I plead for mercy to the Lord. I pour out my complaint before him. I tell my trouble before him. When my spirit faints within me, you know my way. In the path where I walk, they have hidden a trap for me. Look to the right and see. There is none who takes notice of me. No refuge remains to me. No one cares for my soul. I cry to you, O Lord. I say you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Attend to my cry, for I am brought very low. Deliver me from my persecutors, for they're too strong for me. Bring me out of prison, that I may give thanks to your name. The righteous will surround me, for you will deal bountifully with me. What do you do when the roller coaster is really low? Do you pray? Do you whine? Do you complain? Do you complain to God, or do you complain about him? I'm going to finish reading through 1 Samuel 22. I have 6 through 20 on the screen. I'm going to read through the entirety of it. Anybody really quick want to remind me of some of the highs and lows that we've seen in David's life in these passages so far today that we've looked at? Just really quick. Any highs and lows? Yeah, acted crazy? Would we call that a high or low? Okay, me too. Low. He was anointed by Samuel. Good. Right on. Further back in the story, definitely a high point. What else? Say it again. What? That's not good. Is that what you said too? Yeah. What? He was telling Whopper. Is that a girl? Nice. Making up some doozies. Yes, sir. Wow. Oh boy, don't even come up for air. That's deep. I love it. Keep going. So good. You got the bread of the presence. He might have lied to get it, but it was given to him. God sustained him. I'm going to tell you this, through all of it, the foundation was secure and always will be. It's Jesus. The more you try to go away from him, you will find you can't. David wrote about that too in Psalm 139. There's nowhere you can go from his presence. Here you go. Now Saul heard that David was discovered and the men who were with him. Saul was sitting at Gibeah under the tamarisk tree on the height with his spear in his hand. We all know he's not very good with that, but he had it. And all his servants were standing about him. And Saul said to his servants who stood about him, "Hear now, people of Benjamin. Will the son of Jesse, David, give every one of you fields and vineyards? Will he make you all commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds?" It's like, can he do for you what I can do for you? That all of you have conspired against me? He's paranoid. No one discloses to me when my son makes a covenant with the son of Jesse. None of you is sorry for me or discloses to me that my son has stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait as to this day. Then answered Doeg the Edomite, who was there that day, "I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob, to Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub. And he inquired of the Lord for him, and he gave him provisions, and he gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine." Whew, I got that off my chest. Tattletale. Now when the king sent to summon Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house, the priests who were at Nob, and all of them came to the king. He didn't just ask for Ahimelech, he asked for the entire priestly family, or at least the men that were priests. And he said, "Hear now, son of Ahitub." And he answered, "Here I am, my lord. Look, I'm here. I came." The Lord said, "Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse? And that you have given him bread and a sword and have inquired of God for him, so that he has risen against me to lie in wait as to this day?" Then Ahimelech answered the king, "And who among all your servants is so faithful as David, who is also the king's son-in-law and captain over your own bodyguard? And he's honored in your house." He's reminding him, he's giving him a chance of repentance. Hey, I'm a priest. I'm not afraid to say the truth. I'm telling you the truth. Is this today the first time that I've inquired of God for him? No. Let not the king impute anything to his servant or to all the house of my father. For your servant has known nothing of all this, much or little. He's like, I wasn't doing anything but my job. I was honoring God. And the king said, "You're surely going to die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house." And the king said to the guard who stood about him, "Turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because their hand is also with David." And they knew that he fled and did not disclose it to me. But the servants of the king would not put their hand out to strike the priests of the Lord. Then the king says to Doeg, "You turn and strike the priests." And Doeg's like, "Bet." And he turned and he struck down the priests. And he killed on that day 85 persons who wore the linen ephod. No shame in his game. He kills all the priests. And Nob, the city of the priests, he put to the sword. Both man and woman, child, infant, ox, donkey, sheep, he put to the sword. This is super ironic, and it's in that Bible study that we're going through, 1 Samuel for you. This guy, at the behest or at the command of the king, wipes out a godly city. priests, and their family, and their little dogs too. All of them. And Saul wouldn't wipe out enemies of the Lord when he had the opportunity to do it, but he'll wipe out people of the Lord. This is a man who's so far gone. I'm going to say this to you. If you didn't hear it in the beginning, I'm going to beg you to slow down and hear the voice of the Lord. Because if you don't know his voice, you'll listen to other voices. And you will do what it tells you to do. And we need Jesus and more of him. Listen to this. One of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And Abiathar told David that Saul had killed the priests of the Lord. And David said to Abiathar, I knew on that day when Doeg the Edomite was there that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of your father's house. Stay with me. Do not be afraid, for he who seeks my life seeks your life. With me you shall be in safekeeping. This is the high point. He remembers that God's going to take care of him. And he even says to this other guy, he's going to take care of me, so if you're with me, he's going to take care of you. David forgets that sometimes. But this is such as the roller coaster. The foundation is secure. In verse 23, or chapter 23, verses 1 through 6, David was told, behold, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah, and Keilah is a town in Israel. And they're robbing the threshing floors. They're taking advantage of God's people. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, shall I go and attack these Philistines? And the Lord said to David, go and attack the Philistines and save Keilah. But David's men said to him, behold, we're much afraid here in Judah. How much more than if we go to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? We're going to actually go closer to the enemy, and we're afraid where we're at. David does it again. He asks God a second time. Have you ever asked God to answer something for you? And he answers it, and you're like, maybe I'll ask him again. He was doing it for the benefit of his friends that were afraid. He was being a great leader. This is a high. He's seeking the Lord. And the best way to lead is by following the Lord. And so he does. And God says, yeah, get up, go to Keilah, for I will give the Philistines into your hand. Verse 5, David and his men went to Keilah, fought with the Philistines, and brought away their livestock and struck them with a great blow. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. Yay! And when Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, had fled to David to Keilah, he also brought down with him his ephod in his hand. He said, I'm a priest. That's what I do. That's what I'm called to do. I'm on the run for my life, but I'm taking my priestly garment with me because I'm going to be a priest. David, instead of hiding, goes to fight and protect his people. This is a king acting like a king. This is a man willing to lay down his life like the true king did for us. It's so beautiful, and there's so much more. I want to ask, without putting it on the screen, does anybody know Proverbs 27:17 off the top of their noggin? As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. We're about to see that. David's not only coming out of hiding to fight for Keilah, but here's the craziest thing, you guys, and it's how it works sometimes. He sacrifices all kinds of different things and puts himself at risk, wins the fight, gets some food for his guys, and then Saul finds out that David was there saving them in Keilah, and he's in this walled city, and he says, hey, Keilah leaders, will you give me David? And they're like, you bet we will. They didn't say thank you. They were going to snitch him out. They were going to give him over. And God says, get out of there. And so he gets out and he goes and he hides. And he's hiding from anybody? Saul's the king, right? Who's Saul's son? Is Jonathan a godly man, or is Jonathan just like his dad? Check this out. 1 Samuel 23:14. Here's some iron sharpening iron. David remained in the strongholds in the wilderness, in the hill country of the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but God did not give him into his hand. David saw that Saul had come out to seek his life. David was in the wilderness of Ziph at Horesh. And Jonathan, Saul's son, rose and went to David at Horesh and strengthened his hand in God. And he said to him, don't fear, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be next to you. Saul my father also knows this. And the two of them made a covenant before the Lord. David remained at Horesh, and Jonathan went home. And this was the last time they saw each other. Talk about helping somebody find strength in God. At the risk of Jonathan's own life, Jonathan knew where David was hiding. And he didn't snitch him out to his dad. He went and helped him find strength in God. You guys, I'll say it to you. Help each other find strength in God. This is the small group invitation, you bet. This is discipleship invitation, you bet. Go out to lunch with somebody, go out to breakfast with somebody, go out to coffee with somebody. Just hang out, get on the phone, text each other, swap 5. Servants wanting accountability and prayer. So fellow servant, call somebody. Tell them what's going on. Be in relationship with them. Learn how to be able to trust each other and pray for one another. This is how, and I'm going to encourage you to engage your faith right here, right now. How do you engage your faith after reading these ancient texts really quick? What you don't do is forget about it and just put it off. What you don't do is just say, well, that was pretty good. It's really kind of late. Gosh, we get into football season, and you guys, you would think that there was gold waiting for people at home. Like, come on, bro, let's go. Got a game to go to. Come on. So let me just say, it's real though, Mike. If we get to a spot where we have 3 services, I am going to have to condense. We're all going to have to be dialed in, and I'm going to do my best to do it. But what are you going to do with this message? What are you going to do with any message that anybody gives you? What are you going to do with any time you spend in the Word? Some of you need to confess that Jesus is Lord. You haven't done it yet. It's time for you. Confess that He's the Lord. Confess that He's the King of Kings. He's the coming King. He's the King who's been here. He's coming again. He's Lord. And He died for you. And you believe that. And He rose from the dead. You have victory. The firm foundation is firm. So come to Him today. Some of you haven't done that yet. Please don't put it off any longer. Is it that simple? It's belief, and it's not simple. Jesus paid a complicated, crazy price for it, and He did it willingly to reconcile you to His Father. Many of you have already done that, so now you actually need to get into slowing down at some point daily and hearing from God. Praying. Well, I just don't have a lot of time. Especially if you're a mom, I 100% believe it. But you need to. You need to slow down. Hear from the Lord. Get into His Word. Learn to know His voice, as that song, Not in a Hurry, talks about. For many of you, you're learning how to do that. You also need to remember His faithfulness in dark times. Like God all of a sudden He stopped being God because you're in a cave. No, He's still good. He's still God. He's still awesome. Remember, that's where things grow. Some of you are just really, really doing well with this, so you need to help others find strength in God. And some of you who have been doing really well need to actually ask people to help you find strength in God. Engage your faith. Be genuine with this. It's time.